Hey kings and queens, it's been a while, but I have finally returned once again with more beginner game dev slop just for you. Sometime after developing my last game, Crappy Platformer, the most successful and incredible game in itch.io with over, 9 downloads, I realized that I needed to study and learn more about game development if I really wanted to start evolving when it comes to game dev. What you guys are about to see is my journey through the last few months until today. So let's begin by talking about the main issue. As you guys know from my first video, I have barely any experience with coding. I only worked on a tiny bit of HTML when I was in school, and honestly, I really didn't invest that much time into it since then. The interest was there, but it was more leaning towards games than developing websites. We also only had around 25 hours of it, so it really was just a small taste of actual programming. This time, if I wanted to develop an actual game, I needed to improve especially on programming, which is most definitely my weakest aspect. Like I said last video, most code I used for Crappy Platformer was stolen. The only thing I really kind of knew how to do were variables and placing stuff in the inspector. Which, by the way, I don't really judge using other people's code, but in case you really want to benefit long term, you have to at least start trying to develop a tiny bit of code and progress more and more with each project until you can develop actual scripts. Taking some code is fine, but you also gotta learn. It's almost like school. You can use your book to solve some exercises, but you will sometimes forget the book or just not bring it, and therefore you need to do it by yourself. So after finishing up Crappy Platformer, I knew I needed a change, and that's when I found it. Code Monkey. This dude right here dropped a full course on C# and it was all completely free. One thing he did say in his videos is that education and learning should be free and not behind a paywall. So I took his course and it was very accessible. Once you get the hang of it, you are actually able to read what is on screen. But of course it's not all sunshine and rainbows, since there will obviously be parts in which you have more trouble. For me it was mostly with lists and arrays, and I kept on studying for a few days. Even Code Monkey himself said his course videos are made to watch, not on the same day, but as if it were actual classes, like today you study 1 hour or 30 minutes and you keep going the next day. While I did that, I also downloaded some Unity game dev documents, which will all be linked in the description. I printed them since I rather use paper than to stare at the screen reading all day. And after around 2 weeks on and off the course, I had finished the full beginner section. He does have intermediate and advanced sections, but he said this.
Or at this point, if you want to change things, if you want to focus on making a game as opposed to learning about the language itself, if so, then you have enough knowledge to start following my free Kitchen Chaos course. So if you want to try making a game, you can go through that one.
So it was finally time to begin learning Unity. In his Unity course, he taught many different features from the Unity editor, and he gave extremely good explanations on each feature. He was teaching us how to make an Overcooked style game, and yes, I know that it's not a whole ass platformer or an FPS, but the point of his course is to also teach a super important thing about game dev, which is workflow. He quite literally taught us how to do every basic aspect, such as movement, interaction, creating assets, prefabs, and so on. And I did his course for a few weeks on and off as well, while also watching other tutorials and learning stuff from other videos. And all around me I kept seeing every game developer saying stuff like, you have to do it by yourself if you really want to learn. And honestly, after hearing it a few times, I realized, learning from this many people is good and all, but I'm not actually putting it into practice. I'm not doing actual game dev, I'm watching tons of tutorials, but I never do anything by myself, especially programming. So I decided to take a leap of faith. I dropped the Code Monkey course, I'm so sorry by the way, and instead just opened up Unity, and so it began. Once I started this project, I knew I wanted to make something more advanced than just a platformer. A genre I didn't work on yet was FPS, so what if I actually made a game about hunting animals and getting points and then exchanging them for new weapons? Sounded like a pretty solid gameplay loop. I chose the name Unconventional Hunting because I think the name gives off an idea of what the core of the game is. Not your average hunting trip, not your average weapons for hunting, and not your average animals either. I created the player this time with a rigid body, because character controllers involve using code to program physics, while the rigid body comes with its own physics system. And well, let's just say that robbing people's codes and not understanding shit in the code itself is an actual issue, so naturally I rather trying to make my own code by myself. While coding, I looked up references for movement systems since I really didn't know what I was doing and needed a reference. So I went looking and found a tutorial by this guy called Thomas Mason on how to code a movement script, and checked the Unity documentation for the movement script references as well. Then it was the moment of truth. It did not work. Turns out my input system package was not configured correctly or something, so I had to go and change it. I started making some more systems for the game, such as jumping with Unity dev forums and Unity documentation, and I went on fixing errors as I kept developing. And after a while, I actually got it working basically by myself. Oh! What the fuck? Oh shit. I was also able to make a jump mechanic, and I genuinely felt like the smartest man on earth, even if it was a little wonky at first. Fixing it was interesting, to say the least. All of a sudden I just started teleporting out of nowhere. Since I wasn't being able to fix it, I once again went to check the Unity documentation. And I actually got it working as well. Next up, I wanted to get the actual camera working, so I went researching once again. Until I eventually just downloaded Cinemachine, which is a tool that gives the Unity camera extra features and comes with some built-in features such as an FPS camera, for example. Then I used a tutorial by Semicoder to set up the whole system. After I set up the camera, I created a small area for the player to move around using ProBuilder. Then I decided to give GameDev a break and move to a different part of GameDev, making a logo for the game menu. I did not put that much effort into it, I admit, since I don't really like design, and by the end I had this goofy ass result. It'll work. Then I imported the logo into the game and configured everything. No, I did not know what I was doing, I was just messing with the settings until it looked normal. And then I worked on the rest of the main menu. I knew that this time around I wanted to try making my own animations for different in-game aspects, so I created an animation for the logo of the game. Luckily, working on Crappy Platformer helped me learn how the animation tree and animation controllers work. However, it was my first hands-on experience on the Unity animator. It's actually very easy to use. I also built this small area that was originally supposed to be a lobby from which you could access levels, almost like Super Mario 64. I then went on to a new challenge for myself, which is making some arms for the player and rig them without the help of Mixamo. I honestly really expected it to be a lot more difficult, but it turned out fine. Once I imported the arms in game, I just attached them to the main camera and started straight up working on the animations for the player. Of course you have to set it up in the script as well, where I did use Unity documentation once again. I also tried making a mechanic where the player could interact with stuff using gizmos, which are basically like tiny lasers that collide with the environment. And yeah, I'm not really good at explaining it, at least for now. I imported the gun model from Blender, which I made a while ago to practice modeling, and followed the tutorial by Mike's code so I could make a gun. Turns out the script is made as a sort of prefab for different weapons, so you have single firing mode, automatic firing mode, and burst firing mode. He also taught how to make a bullet prefab, in which I used the Unity particle system. And then it was working just fine. So I moved on to the next big part of the game, which is Animal AI. The plan was to make an animal script in which the animal had many behaviors, like free roaming, detecting, chasing, attacking, and so on. Obviously, I had to look up how to take care of some of the aspects when it comes to setting up the NavMesh agent, but other than that, I'd say I had a pretty good performance when writing the script. I tested it out and there it was, an AI for the animal. At least I knew the following and detecting parts were working. Now, to make damage to the player, I made it so anytime the enemy hitbox gets in contact with the player, it removes health from the player. And when I first made it, it did have flaws, which, for example, I had to hump the goddamn cube to take damage.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is
Topotão.
I returned to the AI system and set up a bunch of variables related to detection along with some gizmos so I could have an idea of where the detection area was. and eventually created a small forest-like scenery so I could have an idea of what I wanted for actual gameplay. Then I made some models so I could build a bit of the scenery in game. By the end I had this whole lobby-like area that will end up not being used at all in the final project. I kept working on the weapon script mechanics for a while, still following Mike's codes tutorials, and after trying to make it work, I just realized that it would be better to just delete the arms and focus only on the weapon animations. I set up the animations for the pistol in a script and set up the whole animation tree. By the end, I had this result which I honestly am very satisfied with. Then I tried making a hiding in the bushes mechanic like Far Cry, so the animals won't detect you whenever you were hiding. I also tried making a deer model, but ended up scrapping it for the time being. After having a basic idea of what I wanted, I opened Illustrator and got straight to working on the game map. I wanted the map with a few regions, all different from each other. I wanted a big first area in which you could hunt basic animals, then a tall tree region where you could traverse only through branches and hunt animals from up high, a predator region where you would never be safe and could be attacked by animals who would hunt you down, a mini boss area, and a hidden area. You will have a campsite where you will buy weapons for points you got from hunting animals. It will be like your safe house in the map. After having the map, I got to actually making it in Unity. I kept importing models so I could already set up at least the main area of the map and made a tent model to include in the game. Then I tried making the deer model once again and just ended up making a cow and rigged it. And after importing it to Unity, I created a prefab and gave it the script I had worked on for animal behavior. What could go wrong? After almost overheating my brain from trying to fix this, I decided I should work on the animations for the cow in different states like looking, roaming, and running. I kept working further and further in the map and in the player UI and the dev screen. But after that I stopped for a second and honestly I realized that this could end up being terrible. I'll be real with you guys, if I kept investing in this map and this gameplay loop, I would face a few challenges that, to be honest, my beginner developer mind could not comprehend. At least for now. Such as randomly spawning animals around their designated areas, around the map for example. And I really just think the game will end up not being that interesting with only one map that has, frankly, no replayability. So what if I actually made this game something replayable? Like an arena shooter. And that is how unconventional hunting became an arena shooter. I started building a new map, smaller, simpler, and hopefully better to play in. I used CCO textures once again for some of the map textures. Instead of giving a complex behavior system to the enemies, I decided it will be better to have a simple enemy brain, where the enemy will always know the player's location and as soon as he spawned in, he would go after the player. Once I got it working, I had another issue to tackle, since the bullets weren't damaging the enemy, which took a shit ton of time to get working. And after doing that, I changed what I was doing to reusing the props I made around the map. I kept looking for a way to spawn enemies and found this amazing tutorial by modding by Cowpun Joe. Of course I followed it. Wait, is that the code just laying there? I wanted to add more weapons, and since this game is called Unconventional Hunting, naturally, I had to have an unconventional weapon like a minigun. I also decided there should be another game mode for the game, but more on that later in the video since I didn't work on it at the time. I made a few menu changes so it could look prettier with the help of the Code Monkey course, which taught me quite a bit about post-processing. And as you guys can see, after some testing we already had a working menu, along with the type of gameplay that will be in the final game. However, I did end up changing the point system for a timer where you had to survive a certain quantity of time so you could beat the level. I made many animations for the menus so it could look more visually appealing, and this was the final result. I liked the way it looked. I created the difficulty select menu, which had 4 different difficulties: easy prey, normal hunt, challenging hunt, and rabies. Each difficulty represents easy, normal, hard, and insane difficulties. I imported the minigun model into the game and turned it into a prefab, and gave it the weapon script, this time making it automatic. I tried to balance it out by making the weapon have a different kind of bullet, more specifically a low damage bullet, which, as the name suggests, gives low damage. As you could see, they barely tickled the enemies. So, did I fix it? Fuck no. Instead, I hopped straight back to Blender and started working on a sniper rifle. Naturally, I made a high damage bullet as well for it. And now, we have a weapon that one-shots enemies. But obviously there should be some kind of feedback, so I used Unity's particle system to make a blood splatter effect. Nothing too fancy, I used the default particles and gave it red trails. And then, it took way longer than it should have to code, but whatever, it ended up actually working in the end, and that's what matters. Now, we got back to animating weapons once again, and at least for me, it's one of the most fun parts of using Unity. To be fair, I do have some experience with animation, nothing professional, I just used to do random animations in my free time. After setting up all animation trees and scripts, here is how it looks in game. I really like this result as well, honestly. Of course, I went searching for sound effects for the game in PIXABAY, still the best source of basically most multimedia content I know. And here is a playtest so you guys can see how the project was going by this time. Pretty solid gameplay. So, I got in Filmora, which is the program I use for video editing, and got to making some sound effects. After importing everything, I tried setting it up, but I couldn't get it to work at first. I tried coding it once again the next day and I got it working, sort of. And I ended up making it work along with jumping sound effects. Sprinting and walking is still something I don't know how to make though. The minigun had pretty much the same problem. So it doesn't have shooting sound effects. Then I kept working on other scripts such as making a dev sound effect play whenever the enemy dies. Now, here the actual main problem began. What do you mean? Programming? Modeling? Sound effects? No. It was... Yes, that's right, my PC decided to start crashing on me. For context, my PC is already pretty old. Unfortunately, I can't say that this is unexpected, since I had already formatted it because of that after making crappy platformer. And yes, I did lose the whole project because of it. Oh well. So then I started setting up the sound effects, so when the timer reaches 0, you know you won and... Oh fuck, did the PC just crash again? And once again, after setting up the sound effect... Cool! I worked on another feature, one that wasn't in crappy platformer. Something truly revolutionary. A pause screen. It's really quite simple, you just have to make the end game time stop with this line of code when you press the key you want, and then make the prefab for the pause menu show up. Obviously you have to let your mouse cursor unlock so you can actually interact with the buttons. And just like that, we got it working. Then I worked on a switching weapon script. This one was quite tricky to get at first because I tried multiple ways of doing it. I kept committing more coding war crimes, and as a result I got these stupid animation bugs in which the animations were getting stuck in the same frame they were before I switched to a different weapon. I also don't have the paid version of FL Studio, so even if I wanted to make music for the game, I won't be able to. Too bad I didn't know it while making this. I also made this goofy ass song. And then I went back to Unity to finally fix the switching weapons problem. What's my solution? All I did was disable the visual of the weapons and made it so you couldn't shoot if it isn't selected. Very cool. And believe it or not, it actually works since the weapons are technically all active. The only thing is when one is selected, we can't see the others. But they are playing animations just like they would if they were visible. Then I moved on to making a weapon unlock system, which ended up not being used, so for your sake I won't include much about it in the devlog, but all I will say is that it didn't really work as well as I thought it would, and it would force me to make a save game script, and naturally, since I don't have experience with it yet and it's a little too advanced for me for now, I decided it wasn't worth it. Probably in a future project though. Oh, and the PC crashed again. Due to some problems with the NPCs not being able to climb steep slopes, I scrapped the last map and started working on the final level. This is the level that will end up making it as the full level in the final game. I genuinely loved how the layout looked in the end. It was awesome to see how it turned out. First off, given that we have 4 different difficulties, we need to have different enemies and a different version of each map based on the difficulty you are in. I started by making enemies into different types: fast, normal, heavy, mini-boss, and boss. And naturally I had to update the spawner script. What I would end up doing in the end is creating 4 different prefab variants of the spawner, each with different enemy spawn times and different enemies. Basically, the harder the difficulty, the more enemies show up, the stronger they are, the faster they are, and so on. And I tested all of them in action and it was pretty fun. So then we got to texturing and putting props in the map, so it wouldn't look that empty. And after that I duplicated the scene and gave the whole arena different color schemes. I wanted to do this so you could tell you were in a different difficulty, just like Vedina did with Megabunk Tears. So I gave the easy arena the default colors, the normal arena a yellow color scheme, the hard one a red scheme, my personal favorite, and the insane one, which is purple. I prepared the cow model so it could be an enemy, and after solving some importing issues with it, I was done. I needed a quick enemy, so I made a fox. I mean, it looks more like a dog or something, but well, it's a fox. After bringing it to Unity, I made the animations and created variants for each difficulty, and in the end it looked like this. Soon after, I made the boss, which is a giant
enemy spider.
I imported it into the game and made animations for it as well. And after that I decided I would start working on the map for the other game mode, which is Defend the Camp. In this game mode, instead of you being the target, your tent is, so you have to kill the animals trying to get to it. I wanted this map to have multiple pathways for enemies to come from. And after creating the map I placed the tent in the middle, so it's where all animals will try and attack. I kept testing the survival game mode with different enemies in each difficulty. I created an area that when you fall on it, you die instantly like crappy platformer and... Bruh. I kept trying to fix it, but... Okay, I restarted the PC, let's see... For the Defend the Camp level, I actually just did the sloppiest thing ever with the code. I made the tent the player, because in the enemy brain script, the enemies only attack the player, so I just made the actual player have a different name and gave the player health to the tent. At this point, this game mode is just held by duct tape and hope. I also went searching for songs to put in the game, once again in PIXABAY. Then I found this website called freestylize.com that had loads of free skyboxes that would end up being used for the game. Setting them up wasn't that bad. And lastly, I gave the tent in the Defend the Camp game mode an area where you could see everything from above so you can kill enemies from up there. I decided I wanted to also showcase the models I made in game, since you know, they are gonna be after you the whole time and you won't be able to see them properly. So I started working on a showcase room to show them. But since some of them are missing, we gotta work on them. The heavy enemy in the game is gonna be a rhino, so I modeled it in Blender, gave it animations and variants, and he was good to go. So I tested a bit and my PC crashed once again. Now it was time to make the last enemy, the mini-boss. What kind of enemy will it be? It's a lizard. It's gonna be a lizard. I was running out of ideas, to be honest. You already know, made variants and animations, and there we have it. We have every enemy we need done. So I kept building the full showcase room. It was pretty easy to build. Then I worked on fixing a few bugs with the movement system. I changed up the visuals a bit because of the blur from afar. It was pretty bad if you wanted to snipe enemies from far away. I made the icons for each game mode in Illustrator and then imported it into the game. I went looking for more songs in PIXABAY. And we are officially done. And that is how I made an arena shooter. Honestly, even if it is flawed, making this game was an amazing experience. Mostly because I improved quite a lot in programming. It didn't feel like I was staring at gibberish anymore, and it honestly gave me enough confidence to feel like I can actually do this. I feel like I can genuinely, with a few more games, get the grasp of the basics of mostly everything in game dev, and Unconventional Hunting was honestly the game to prove that. I also decided that I am going to start taking this more seriously. The truth is, I'm currently looking for a job since I can't make a living out of game dev for now, but I promise I will try working on it as much as I can. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey, this is me post-editing. I completely forgot to actually tell you guys that I created a Gamejolt page. So for context, Gamejolt, in case some of you don't know, is exactly like itch.io, where you guys can publish your games or play other people's games, and so I have a page there. The link is in the description. Go check it out.
Wait a minute, 지금부터 선수끼리 밤이 아까워 타나플라우라 불타오르는 아름다운 그대여. How you like me now? How you like me now? How you like me now? How you like me now?
Hey, where'd you get that body from? Where'd you get that body from? Where'd you get that body from?
I got it from my daddy. I got it from my daddy. I got it, got it.
Hey, where'd you get that body from?
I got it from my daddy. I got it from my daddy. I got it, got it.
Hey, where'd you get that body